What if I told you that in just a few short years, the rent you're struggling to pay right now could collapse? Not by a few dollars, but by hundreds every single month. Imagine the weight lifting off your shoulders when the same apartment that feels impossible today suddenly becomes affordable again. Sounds crazy, right? But here's the truth. The crash is already being set in motion, and once it starts, there's no stopping it. For the past 4 years, renters have been crushed, forced to sacrifice savings, delay their dreams, and live paycheck to paycheck just to keep a roof overhead. But the system that created this nightmare is about to turn on itself. By mid-2026, experts and insiders are warning of a collapse so severe it could make the housing meltdown of 2008 look small in comparison. We're not talking about minor discounts or a slow adjustment. We're talking about a tidal wave of falling rents across America's biggest cities. Here's the part almost nobody realizes. The warning signs are already everywhere. Developers are locked into finishing massive construction projects they can't cancel. Corporate landlords, the very ones who drove prices up, are now quietly dumping properties at a loss. And demand in once untouchable cities is evaporating as people move out faster than anyone predicted. These aren't random events. They're pieces of a puzzle that fit together perfectly to form one outcome: a historic rent crash that could flip the housing market upside down. So stay with me, because over the next few minutes, I'm going to break down exactly why this collapse is not only possible, but practically inevitable. And the reasons behind it are far more shocking than you think. Some of them are obvious, others will completely blindside you. By the end of this video, you'll understand why 2026 won't just be another year. It'll be the reset button renters have been waiting for. If you don't want to miss how this plays out, hit that like button and subscribe right now, because staying ahead of this shift could save you thousands of dollars. Now let's dig into the forces already at work and uncover why rent prices are heading straight for a historic freefall. The supply tsunami. Right now, the U.S. housing market is sitting on a time bomb of new construction. Federal Reserve data shows over 4.2 million apartments under construction, the highest since the early 1970s. But here's the catch. It's not just the number, it's the timing. More than 80% of these units will hit the market in one concentrated wave between late 2025 and mid-2026. In just 6 months, more new rentals will flood the market than we've seen built in the last 3 years combined. Insiders aren't calling this a supply increase. They're calling it a supply tsunami. Developers can't pull back. Most projects are already 60 to 70% complete, and stopping now would mean bankruptcy for builders and disaster for lenders. These units are coming, whether the market can handle them or not. And here's the kicker. Corporate landlords, the same groups that push rents up 30 to 40% since 2020, are already heading for the exits. Firms like Blackstone and Invitation Homes are unloading properties at nearly triple the normal pace, sometimes taking 15 to 20% below asking just to escape. When the so-called smart money runs, it's because they know the walls are closing in. Internal memos even describe the coming scenario as a rental apocalypse. And that's only the first domino. Once this supply wave collides with a softening market, the balance of power flips overnight. But oversupply? That's just the beginning. The great renter exodus. When remote work exploded in 2020, many thought it was temporary, a stopgap until life returned to normal. But that return never came. According to Microsoft's Work Trend Index, nearly 3 out of 4 companies have now made hybrid work permanent, with employees in the office only 2 or 3 days a week. That shift transformed the rental market in ways landlords never saw coming. Millions of renters realized they no longer needed to live near expensive downtown districts. Why pay $3,000 for a cramped apartment in San Francisco when you can work remotely from a larger place in Arizona or Ohio for half the price? The result, a mass exodus from high-rent cities that's still accelerating. San Francisco has already lost 180,000 renters since 2022. New York City, more than 240,000 gone. Seattle's downtown population has dropped by double digits, with some neighborhoods losing over 15%. And it isn't just about people leaving, it's the ripple effect they leave behind. Landlords in these cities are scrambling. Official rent data still looks steady, but behind the scenes, desperation is obvious. Owners are offering 3 to 4 months of free rent, waived deposits, even gift cards. Anything to fill units. These concessions aren't reflected in official numbers, but if you strip away the gimmicks, effective rent in some cores is already down 20 to 25%. Here's the hidden danger. Once renters realize luxury buildings are basically paying people to move in, the illusion of strong rents collapses overnight. That kind of word of mouth spreads fast, and once it does, landlords have no choice but to slash prices outright. So while oversupply sets the stage, migration is the fuel. Cities once untouchable are bleeding population, and vacancies are pushing the market closer to its tipping point. But this isn't the end, because a much bigger demographic shift is about to flood the market with even more rentals than anyone is prepared for. The demographic time bomb. If oversupply and migration weren't enough, there's another wave building, one tied to demographics, and it's even harder to stop. Baby boomers, who still control nearly 42% of all rental properties in the US, are entering their 70s and 80s at record pace. That means millions of properties are about to change hands through downsizing, inheritance, or necessity. Here's the reality. Boomers are leaving the market at nearly 10,000 per day. Many are selling rentals because they no longer want the stress of managing tenants. Others pass properties to millennial children who often can't afford to maintain them or don't want to be landlords at all. The result? Homes flood back onto the market. The National Association of Realtors estimates 2.8 million additional rental units will hit the market by 2026 from boomer downsizing alone. Add the 4.2 million new builds already on track, and you're looking at a surge unlike anything seen before, over a 35% increase in just 18 months. And here's the dangerous part. This isn't a gradual housing cycle. It's happening all at once. Entire portfolios are being liquidated, often at steep discounts, as older owners cash out. That piles even more pressure on corporate landlords, now forced to compete with small owners desperate to sell. It's a chain reaction. Oversupply from construction meets oversupply from demographics, creating a double shock no market can absorb. And when millions of new units collide with fewer qualified renters, scarcity flips to saturation almost overnight. But this isn't just about too many rentals. Another looming crisis is set to hit the financial backbone of real estate. And when it breaks, the shockwaves will ripple through every apartment building in America. The financial time bomb. As if oversupply and demographics weren't enough, the financial side of the rental market carries a ticking time bomb. According to Morgan Stanley, over $1.5 trillion in commercial real estate loans must be refinanced by 2026. The problem? These loans were locked in at 3 to 4% rates. Today, they face 7 to 8%, a gap that's devastating. For landlords and developers, this isn't a small hurdle. It's a death sentence. Many large complexes simply can't generate enough rent to cover the new payments. And when the math stops working, defaults follow. JP Morgan already predicts a 40% default rate on multifamily property loans by mid-2026. That means nearly half of all apartment buildings could be in financial distress within 18 months. When banks repossess, they won't hold on. They'll liquidate fast at bargain prices, pushing rents even lower. Renters, in turn, gain negotiating power they've never had before. But here's the part few mention. When landlords and developers collapse, it's not just about their properties. The ripple spreads across pensions, insurers, and funds with billions tied up in these loans. If 2008 taught us anything, it's that once the dominoes fall, they don't stop at housing, they spread everywhere. This is why insiders warn the coming wave isn't a slowdown, but a systemic shock. The numbers are brutal, the timeline's short, and the pressure is building. And if you think this is bad, wait until you see how fast it collides with the shadow market landlords don't want you to know about. The hidden rental crisis. On the surface, official rent data looks solid. News outlets keep reporting steady prices, and landlords want you to believe the market is resilient. But beneath those headlines lies a very different reality, one that shows just how fragile things are. In cities like San Francisco, New York, and Seattle, thousands of units sit empty. Instead of cutting listed prices, landlords quietly offer massive concessions. 3 to 4 months free rent, waived deposits, free parking, even gift cards. On paper, rents look high, but in practice, effective rents are already down 20 to 25%. And that's not the only hidden crack. A shadow inventory is building. Hundreds of thousands of completed units corporate owners keep off the market to avoid tanking prices. Private equity firms are holding nearly 340,000 vacant rentals, paying mortgages and taxes just to keep them dark. Insiders warn these firms are bleeding cash and eventually one will break ranks. When that happens, the floodgates open. One major landlord panic selling or mass releasing inventory will trigger the rest. Once that shadow supply hits the market, rents could drop 20% in a single month in some cities. Then there's insurance, a hidden cost most renters never think about. In states like Florida, California, and Louisiana, property insurance has soared nearly 180% since 2020. Landlords pass those costs to tenants, but when rents fall while insurance keeps climbing, thousands of small owners will be forced to sell, adding even more supply. This is the part few mainstream outlets cover, because it reveals how deep the cracks already run. Official rent numbers may look stable, but the real market is collapsing under giveaways, vacancies, and rising costs. And once the truth can't be hidden, the crash won't just be visible, it'll be undeniable. But here's the twist. While some cities drown in empty rentals, others are quietly heating up, creating one of the most divided housing markets America has ever seen. The two Americas of rent. Not every city will feel this crash the same way. Some markets are set to implode, while others could actually see rents climb. That's what makes this reset so unusual. It won't just be a nationwide collapse, it will split the country in two. Take Austin, Texas. Once one of America's hottest rental markets, it's now ground zero for oversupply. The city has approved over 28,000 new units to be completed by 2026, a 15% increase in just 2 years. Vacancy rates have already jumped from 5% to 11% in 6 months. Property managers report $3,000 luxury apartments sitting empty for over 90 days. By mid-2026, analysts predict Austin rents could crater by 45%. Now look at Phoenix, Arizona. More than 32,000 units are under construction, while vacancies have already doubled since 2023. Miami's condo market tells the same story, cooling so fast that developers are offering outrageous incentives, cars, furniture packages, even cryptocurrency bonuses just to sign a lease. That's not strength, it's desperation. But here's the twist. While coastal and Sunbelt metros drown in empty units, secondary cities are heating up. Places like Columbus, Ohio, Richmond, Virginia, and Boise, Idaho, are absorbing renters fleeing expensive metros while keeping new construction under tight control. That means constrained supply, rising demand, and rents that could actually go up even as big metros collapse. The result? By 2026, America could face the most divided rental market in history. In one city, tenants might see rents cut in half. In another, just a few states away, renters could face bidding wars. The gap between crashing coastal markets and booming heartland cities could reach 60 to 70%, creating inequality the rental market has never seen. And here's why that matters. Once renters realize friends in other cities are paying pennies while they're still stretched to the max, political pressure will explode. And governments, state and federal, are already quietly preparing for that storm. The system on the brink. By now it's clear, oversupply, migration, demographics, and finance are pushing the rental market toward collapse. But it doesn't end with landlords and tenants. The ripple effects reach pensions, banks, and even the federal government. And that's where things get unsettling. Let's start with pensions. Some of the largest public retirement funds in America, covering teachers, firefighters, police, and millions of workers, have up to 18% of their portfolios in real estate, much of it multifamily rentals. If rents fall 30 to 40%, these funds won't just take a hit, they could lose billions. Retirees who thought their pensions were safe may suddenly see cuts just when they need stability most. And it's not just pensions. Insurance companies and investment trusts are also exposed. Billions in commercial mortgage-backed securities must reprice in 2025 and 2026. If defaults stack up, it's not only empty apartments, it's Wall Street staring at losses big enough to trigger another wave of panic. Governments know this. Behind closed doors, the Federal Reserve and Treasury are already meeting with landlords to discuss bailouts. But here's the problem. After 4 years of tenants being squeezed, bailing out corporate landlords would be politically toxic. Families sacrifice savings and healthcare just to keep up. Seeing those same landlords rescued could spark outrage Washington hasn't seen in decades. And states are bracing too. From California to New York, legislatures are drafting emergency measures to prevent mass evictions. But these are temporary fixes. They can't stop the math. When millions of units hit the market and landlords fight over fewer tenants, rents only have one way to go: down. The scary part? Once the crash is undeniable, the social consequences will be massive. Expect lawsuits, political upheaval, even unrest in cities where renters and landlords both feel betrayed. Because this isn't just numbers on a spreadsheet, it's trust in the system itself. And if you think that sounds dramatic, wait until you see how fast this timeline is moving, because the crash isn't years away. The countdown has already started. The countdown to the crash. So when does this all go down? The crash isn't far off. It's already starting. The timeline is clearer than most realize, and if you understand it, you can save thousands. The first cracks are here. Q1 of 2025 will mark the beginning as new supply quietly hits the market. Vacancies will tick up. Landlords will offer small incentives, a free month, a waived deposit. Most renters won't notice, but insiders will. The dam is straining. By the second quarter to the third quarter of 2025, the pressure will be obvious. Vacancies climb, concessions grow, and landlords scramble to lock in tenants. Headlines will mention softening rents and housing headwinds. But that's just the buildup. The real break comes late 2025 through early 2026, when the construction wave collides with falling demand. Corporate landlords slash rates, private owners fight to survive, and portfolios show up at discounts. By quarter 2 of 2026, we'll be in full crash mode, rents down 30 to 40% in major markets. And it won't stop there. Q3 to Q4 of 2026 will likely be the bottom as distressed properties flood the market and banks offload foreclosures at fire sale prices. Renters could lock in leases at levels not seen since 2015. Buyers may find a once-in-a-generation chance to pick up properties for pennies on the dollar. So what should you do now? First, avoid long-term leases before mid-2026. Month-to-month flexibility could save you thousands. Second, save aggressively. Cash will be king when the crash hits. Third, watch overbuilt cities like Austin, Phoenix, and Miami for the steepest declines. Finally, document everything with your landlord, because collapsing revenue often leads to aggressive fees and deposit battles. Remember, this isn't just about numbers, it's about survival. Renters who stay informed, flexible, and patient will walk away with huge gains. Those who ignore the signs, they'll be stuck in overpriced contracts just as the market bottoms out. And here's the part most people miss. This crash won't just change rents, it will reshape cities, lifestyles, and even the American dream itself. Because when rents reset, the very character of our communities will transform in ways we've never seen before. The reset we've been waiting for. By now it's clear that the rental market as we know it is on borrowed time. Oversupply, mass migration, demographic shifts, financial stress, and hidden cracks are all colliding into one unavoidable outcome, a historic crash that will redefine housing in America. For renters, this collapse isn't just about cheaper leases. It's about finally getting relief after years of sacrifice. It's about young people finally being able to move out on their own. Families being able to save again instead of watching their paychecks vanish. Seniors holding on to dignity in retirement without being crushed by rising costs. But make no mistake, this transition won't be smooth. Landlords will fight to squeeze every last dollar before the fall. Politicians will scramble with short-term fixes, and Wall Street will be waiting to scoop up distressed properties once the dust settles. The winners in this story won't be the institutions, it will be the renters who stay patient, informed, and prepared. When rents drop by 30 to 40% in 2026, it won't just feel like a correction, it will feel like the market flipping upside down. And if you're ready, you'll be able to take advantage of it in ways that seemed impossible just a few years ago. So here's the bottom line. Stay flexible, save your cash, and don't let yourself get locked into long-term leases before the storm passes. The biggest opportunity in decades is right around the corner, and those who see it coming will be the ones who benefit the most. If this video opened your eyes,